Hi there.
Hi there.
Happy
Here we are again.
holidays.
Thoughtful Thursdays.
Thoughtful Thursdays. It's
Yeah, the theme of the day, I'll just give it to you, is what are we building together?
yep.
Okay. And it's really all about discovery
Mhm.
and intuition.
I can't have said it better. So we're gonna just go right into this
Why
because
not?
you are just an aficionado of different perspectives and being able to kind of put it on the table to digest and have others join the table and think about some stuff. So John,
Yep.
I want to jump right into this. You kind of highlighted this to me a little bit ago, and I really want to spend some time to talk about the four levels of learning because you did it so
Okay.
gracefully, and I think people will benefit from this.
Okay. So this is inside of a context of intention and coaching. So on the outside, you see this is where coaches come in,
Mm-hmm.
and what do coaches do? They provide tools, models, practices, and insights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what a coach does. That's a coach's job. And what they're doing is they're dealing with somebody that's on one of the stages, and they want to move them to the next stage. They're moving them out of a level of where they just have no clue
Mm-hmm.
to a point where they have somewhat of a clue, but they have no competency. And then to a point where they have competency and they've got a clue. And then to the point where they just like unconsciously, whatever. So the four levels are unconsciously incompetent, have no clue, have no idea, not in the game at all, not in the play the game, learn the rules correct at all, like that. And then they come to a place where they are in I don't know that I don't know, but the coach sees something in them
Mm-hmm.
and moves them to the next stage, and the next stage is where they are unconsciously they are consciously incompetent. So I moved from unconsciously incompetent, I'm asleep, to the whole thing, I don't care, whatever else like that, to the
Mm-hmm.
point where I am consciously incompetent. I know that I don't know. And I'm actually starting to work on this. And the coach is working with me, and the coach is providing tools, practices, models, and insights to have me move through this process. And it's mainly through practice, virtuous practice, that what I do is I get to the next stage, which is where I'm consciously competent. So stage 3 on this is consciously competent. I actually can kind of, I got it, and I'm getting it, and I'm working on it. I start to become my own coach at this point, although I actually find other coaches that are even richer and probably maybe even outgrew my first coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I start looking to higher models, and I start looking to like deeper and more profound practices and deeper and more profound insights, until the point where I get through this. This is a journeyman phase.
Mm-hmm.
Until I get through this journeyman phase, where basically I've done my stage 3 stuff. I'm great, you're not. I got the stats to prove it. I practiced it and everything else like that. To the point where I realize that I actually need to join the human race in whatever the conversation is that I'm doing, be it learning Spanish or learning how to catch a ball or learning how to run or learning how to dance or learning how to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I am in play the game, learn the rules correct, and I am developing fall forward fast
Mm-hmm.
and fail forward fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that. And I'm knocking on the door if I take it on like an Olympian,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean like seriously an Olympian, someone who wants to contend for the model of operating at world class all the time, and they're in the practice of it, to the point where I become unconsciously competent. And then I play out in that world. This is the world where you actually gain wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
This is where your intention comes out, because you are playing beyond the mechanics of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you were a catcher, and you were a catcher at an Olympic level. And in the Olympic level of catching, It's not about catching the ball, calling the plays, and everything else like that. It's about being the field strategist. It's about being the field general. It's about really controlling the game and using the pitcher as your tool to get it done.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? So I'm going to recap the four levels that you talked about, right? Unconsciously incompetent, right?
Yep.
I don't know what I don't know. I'm just kind of maybe taking the first step and maybe it works, right? To consciously incompetent, saying, okay, I really don't know, but maybe I have an appetite to learn a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
To consciously competent, which is
Yep.
I need my mentors. I want the coaching. I'm hungry for it because
Right.
I know I have something here. To
Right.
now getting to that field general state, which becomes unconsciously competent, which would be
Yes.
the Black Mamba, like Kobe Bryant got to the point where
Exactly.
he became so surgical in his precision on very basic plays, but he knew them so well, and it garnered his kind of greatest of all time presence and approach to the point where now,
that's exactly the same with those people, the Larry Birds.
yeah,
It's exactly why they come out there. The first one there, and they're practicing,
yeah.
and they're the last one to leave, because when they go away, they're always working on the holes in their game. And when everybody else goes away, they're sitting there by themselves and they're working it out. They're working it out in conscious competency to move it into the area where it's just unconscious.
And what's great about the whole field, general concept that I love, right? So
Yeah.
I heard a story about Kobe Bryant, and it's funny because it really relates and hones in on this topic. So he was definitely unconsciously competent. Okay.
Yep.
For the mere fact that there was a story that a couple of basketball players that played with him, whether it be at the Olympic stage, whether it be in the NBA, they all had different experiences, but the concept was very congruent across the board, right? So one guy went into the gym, right? Kobe Bryant was in the gym. They both were practicing, and they were practicing hard, and it was before a game. And he really couldn't believe that Kobe was practicing this hard. So it kind of pushed him and brought him to that state where this other player was great too, right? You're in the NBA, you have to be great. So
Yeah.
he was working, right? Then he was like, look, we have a game. I don't want to get tired out. I need my legs for the game, right? But what he did was he sat on the side and watched how long Kobe Bryant was still playing. And then,
Yep.
look, I need to go eat. I need to recover, get the nutrients in for the game. Later on, he asked, Kobe, do you do that before every game? And he goes, oh, no. He goes, I just did that because I wanted to be better than you. And I wanted you to know that I wasn't going to stop until you left that gym. And I was like, that's another level of mentality and what a true unconsciously competent person does, right?
Hey, there's a great story about Lance Armstrong. So forget the scandal around Lance Armstrong. He was the best in the world. Yeah. And he won 7 major races. Mm-hmm. So on Christmas Day, he gets a Christmas call from the guy who is the second place guy, and is the second place guy, and the second place guy, and the second place guy.
Yeah.
And he gets his Christmas call to say Merry Christmas. The guy's English. Mm-hmm. And he says, what are you doing? And Lance says, well, I'm training. I'm on the trainer. I've been on the trainer for 6 hours by the time the guy called.
Oh, yeah.
He says, I only have another 2 hours to go, and then I'll be able to go celebrate Christmas. And the guy hangs up, and he turns around to his wife, and he says, I will never win.
Yeah, and some people know that, right? And yeah. I've heard stories of his, teammates that said they had a good day, right? And they woke up at 3:30, 4 in the morning, and they were getting ready to go to the gym, and Kobe was already there.
Already there. Same with Bird.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're not going to outwork them. And what they're doing is they're not working at the level. So they may be working on the same drop back jump shot, maybe working on the same drop back jump shot that you're working on. However, they're working on it at a level because they're finding an insight about that. They're creating something in front of them that is imaginary, but they're working on the insight that is giving them. So again, it's about tools and models and practices and insights.
Yeah. And
all to forward the intention.
yeah. And I think that that's interesting because some people practice to become perfect or to garner precision, let's just say.
Right.
The real greatest of all times, they practice until they get it wrong.
Exactly.
And it's a very different approach that many people don't understand. Right?
Do you watch basketball?
Oh yeah.
Have you watched Doncic?
No.
Oh, unbelievable. This guy is making shots. Well, it's like, you know,
well, I mean, I've watched him, but I don't watch his whole game, you know, like,
you know, because, you know, he's slow. Magic was considered to be slow, couldn't jump. Bird was slow, couldn't jump. Doncic is slow, couldn't jump. All three of them dominated every game, every time. They would just drop 52 on you if you just messed with them at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some players that, you know, I follow just because of it's bigger than the game, right? And
yeah,
Kobe did a lot of stuff.
Kobe for sure.
Community,
Kobe for
and
sure.
and he's someone that is a true role model, right? So for me, it's bigger than the game. Yeah, I watch the game. I'm a fan of the game, but I know that athletes are more than just their sport. So when I'm looking at an individual, right, and an individual that could be a field general at the time, right, I see them for who they really are.
Well, you know, and the practice, you take Kobe and the practice when his career was over, and he knew his career was over. So his last game, he had 83 points. And, you know, and he walked out on top of everything with every possible award and retiring his jersey and the whole deal like that. And then he takes on being a filmmaker and documenting a whole idea and wins an Academy Award. Now, all he was at best was consciously incompetent, but he became consciously competent very quickly because of his work ethic and his practices, and surrounded himself with Academy Award quality people who could do the job. And he oversaw it because he had the master's eye view. Won an Academy Award. And then, you know, another one is Shaq. He's gone out and, you know, he's a successful businessman, has an MBA, and is a sheriff. You know, all of these guys have developed a level of conscious competency, at least outside of that. And after the career, you know, after the career was over, after the game was over, after the music stopped, after all of the cheering stopped and everything else like that, the question is, what's next? Because you're going to be in a place of unconscious incompetency, and you better get unconsciously competent and consciously competent really quick. It's your intention to do that. So pick something that is worth doing, you know, worth leaning into, worth, you know, your time, your energy, your money, your expression, your life.
Yeah, and I want to bring it to kind of an athletic concept here. We all go pro in different arenas in life.
We all go pro in different arenas
in terms of active participation, it will end. It's not forever. It really is not. So the transition post sports is one that is very, very hard for athletes, because a lot of times our identity that we've developed over the years is in sport, and we can't think outside of that. So we become this unconsciously competent level of flow, and some maybe not fully get there, but if you're playing at, you know, the collegiate level and beyond, you get close to that, right? But then you have to kind of circle back, figure out, well, what's your why? Who are you outside of sport? And to be honest with you, are you ready for your new day one? And that
Well,
concept.
and I mean, I just want to kind of piggyback on what you're saying and underscore what you're saying. You know, if you take a look at what is the function of a coach at the college level, it's to get you in the flow.
Mhm.
What is the function of the coach at the pro level is to keep you in flow.
Manage the ego.
Different, yeah, yeah. So the thing about it is, here you are moving to another place, and it's not only you moving to another place. Who are your coaches?
Oh yeah.
Who are the people that you're putting around you to get you into flow and get you and keep you in flow?
Yeah, but the struggle here, though, John, is that in order to get to the point where you have a knowledge base of, okay, I don't know, but I know I want to know. And then I want to surround myself with the right mentors, coaches, and sponsors. You
Yep.
have to be able to get through, as you call it in the first piece of the four learnings, levels, is unconsciously incompetent. And that is the gray area that I'm going to tell you athletes face identity crisis. And even if someone in corporate America wants to do a complete pivot and career change into something that they haven't done before, it's the same conceptual weight that gets put on you to take that first step and kind of go through the mud a bit, right?
Well, you know, but no matter who you are, it's the same process. You know, you are unconsciously competent in speaking English. You and I both are unconsciously competent speaking English.
Mm-hmm.
I now live in Mexico and I am consciously incompetent in Spanish.
Yeah.
But I'm surrounded by coaches. I've got Pepe, I've got Roberto, and I've got Lupita. Lupita speaks no English whatsoever. But whenever I say something, they correct me, they help me with my grammar, whatever. And I'm now at the point where I have the conscious competence of a bright 3-year-old Spanish speaking kid in the present tense.
Yep.
And I'm beginning to learn how to say next week and last week and talk about, you know, they're giving me past, present, and future. And they're giving me I and we and they and you and so on like that. These are my coaches. And as I do this and I go out on the streets and I go to the restaurants and I go to the shops and I talk with people, they coach me and they correct me. And I'm moving to a point of I'm in that incompetent stage of being conscious to conscious competency. That's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is my coach.
So I couldn't agree more. You all right?
I just got a tickle. I'm going to take a drink of water while you talk.
So I couldn't agree more, John. So the thing that you embody is you're curious. You love learning. You love learning to the point where you can acquire a knowledge base and then make it also your own. You are very, in my opinion, rare. There's people who are curious, but they may want to learn just the piece that they want to know to leverage that one little thing, where you really want to understand the multitude of legs relative to the topic to then.
I love that you say this. By the way, it reminds me of when I was 14 years old and I was taking Latin in school, Sister Mary Bernarda.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a pain in the ass to Sister Mary Bernarda. And she said, John, he said, Mr. King, he said two things. He said, patience is a virtue, possess it if you can. And then the second that she said was, you are an avis rara. And I went, that sounds kind of what? Avis rara. And it means rare bird.
Well, but you are, and I know I am. The more and more I interact,
You are.
and I'm always growing. I'm a sponge. I live for that. That is who I am. It is not
Yes.
something that I fabricated. It is a part of my fabric. And
Yeah.
I think that the thing that we have to discuss also are those that aren't as curious, those that are stuck in their ways, right? And what are the repercussions for those that sports was their end all be all, or they became what do they say it, a franchisee in the corporate world under one corporate environment for 30 to 40 years. It's great to be commendable, but as they retire, right, after being in corporate environment and after you retire being in sport, having a passion and quest for my new sport, right?
Yep.
What do you do, right? What do you do if someone is not built like us, John? Because there's a lot more people who are not than are.
Yes. Yes. If you take a look at the Pareto distribution, you can actually work it out mathematically, and it shows up over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And the Pareto distribution is not 80-20, you know, the 80-20 rule, bullshit. It's not 80-20 at all. What it is 1/2 of the square root of n, whatever the number is that are in the deal. So if there's 100 people in your circle, and there are 100 people in your circle, 10 of them are in your inner circle, and 5 of them are doing all the work. 1/2 of the square root of n. And n is the size of your tribe.
It's your sample size.
It's your sample size, but it really is about, the Dunbar number on it is about 100 to 150. That's all you can hold. So you look at your Facebook thing and you got 5,000 people on your Facebook page. So what? Of those, there are 10 you're actually interacting with, and there are 5 that are saying something that makes sense.
That's true. And that's what's interesting about the concept of marketing and influencers and all that kind of stuff out there. I always caution others, because I have many people who come to me and they say, Sam, I love your content. You know,
Yep.
I don't want to just write, you know, on the thing, because I don't know if I have that much to expand, but I just want you to know I see it, right? And I started to do the math, and I have like 900 followers or something like that on Instagram, which is great. Like, I love it. If I can help impact and inspire 900 people, home run for me, right? So I started to do the math part of it. And last time you talked about this distribution and you challenged my 80-20 concept, right? So I did the math, and I am so fortunate because although not all 900 interact with me, I'm near about a 35 to 40% interactive dialogue, whether it's in a direct message, whether it's actually commenting on a post or a video or liking. And that's huge, because that means I'm actually engaging, and I'm coming to the level that others receive informations, and I'm putting stuff that people didn't know they needed to hear, and we're affording a community to drive.
Oh, listen, no doubt about it. The thing about it, if you take a look at it and you start to distinguish the levels of that, the 900 are the people that you have that you're in contact with. The 35 or 40% that you're doing, you have a relationship with. Very, very key. And then there's the group that is the inner circle. The 5, the 10.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Because of that, I probably have a solid 10, maybe 15, but I would say more 10. I think you're pretty spot on with your numbers.
Yeah.
That are absolute champions.
Yeah.
They even have my number, you know.
They have your number. They would stop what they're doing to take on what you need if you need them.
Yeah, and I think this is an important concept, because we're in a a weird world these days where people have their identity through that like, through that comment, right?
Well,
People,
let's go back just a second. I want to hold the thought because I want
okay,
to come forward, but
okay.
hold that thought. So you've got the 10,
Yeah, my inner circle.
okay, your inner circle, that you could say they've got your back and you've got their back.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say that of the 35%. You're in relationship with them and you're contributing to them and they contribute back to you. There's a reciprocal thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's the 10 that have got your back and you've got their back.
Mm-hmm.
Very key, because in order for me to move forward, I have to be moving forward with people who've got my back.
Of course. You can't do it by yourself. Yeah.
Nope. Okay, I'm done with my little rant on got your back, but
Oh no, are you kidding me? I live for this stuff. So you
yeah.
can stop me anytime. We can go back. We can rewind.
Well, it's all in the cracks. It's all in the cracks.
The world is
You
our
know.
oyster. We've already determined that. We walk that
Mhm.
line.
Yeah, exactly. That's the fun of it. Thursday is a day of discovery. That's the fun of it.
I know. I really enjoy it. And I spend a lot of time with breaking others' fixed nature on I want the likes. I want someone to talk to me about this content I put out because now their view of success criteria is determined by those KPIs that they think are important on other people's
Okay.
perspective of them. Okay.
Okay.
So I've been spending more time with those that I'm in relationship with mainly, right? Not the inner circle, that want to know how I'm doing it and how I stay motivated when I only get 10 likes. And I said, because guess what? You see 10 likes. You know what I see? I see the fact that I have about 100 direct messages for those that don't have the courage just yet to interface externally, but they know that in our discussion here on the 4 levels of learning, that they are consciously incompetent.
Yes. Perfect. 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 What a
So
rich
fascinating.
place to be, to have that insight about yourself. That is the beginning. That's the beginning of maturity and growth and development.
So I always authentically connect with people at a degree that they're not used to. And I come and speak in the language of that person and how they receive information. And what is very disheartening to me is I'm considered a rare breed. And I want this to become the
You
norm.
are.
I want this to become the norm because we need to break through our surface level interactions in life, because we have literally one life to live, John. And I am so passionate about helping serve others with what it takes to authentically connect to a level that it becomes two-way, where they may not be your inner circle, but you're still on your quest for curiosity and learning. And maybe you have an intersection with someone that, hey, you never would have considered.
You will. You will. It's like me in learning Spanish and speaking to Lupita, who is the woman who cleans my house and speaks no English. I love her, and I love her on several levels. And one is I honor her as my coach. I never would have thought that before, except I know that I am consciously incompetent in Spanish, and she's going to move me to competent. I have to get competent in order to communicate with her.
Yeah. It's fascinating. And I don't think a lot of people spend time to pause and reflect on the interactions they have each year. So for me, one of the things that I intentionally do is every about 3 months, I stop myself, I pause, and I think about who are all the people I have interfaced with. I actually write them down. I write down every interaction. And I may not have remembered someone's name at the store that I had a nice conversation with because I maybe was in passing, but I had takeaways from that conversation that I write down.
Yes.
And I make that very intentional because I am granular in that way, because I know that I only have so many interactions that I am afforded in this lifetime. So I want to remember them all and see when they come to the surface.
I can't tell you how awesome this conversation is. I will tell you that I do something that I developed a tool called a why strategy. And it's the strategy for the next 90 days. It's like what I can accomplish in the next 90 days. And the rule is it has to be measurable and set in time. And I cannot do it myself. I have to do it with others. And so I set it at the beginning of every quarter. There's a reason the business goes quarterly. So I set it at the beginning of the quarter, and the due date is the next quarter, the beginning of the next quarter. So I've got my why strategy now for March 1st. And the day before is report card day.
Oh, yeah.
So I do the strategy, and I have coaching, and I have, surround myself and support and conversations and everything of what I'm going to accomplish. And then I get to that day, and then there's report card day, and I grade myself A, B, C, D, F.
Yeah.
And then I build the next strategy for the next quarter. And that's all I'm interested in, is quarter to quarter to quarter to quarter. Now, where am I going to be in 2 years? I don't know. But my intention is to be somewhere like competent, consciously competent in Spanish, 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got goals in that area. People are the difference that make it happen.
100%. And the other aspect of the quarter breakdown, I also do 2-week sprints. So I don't wait 3 months to assess, am I on track? I do 2 sprints to say, hey, you know what? Don't do tomorrow what you can do today. Live that. Walk that.
That is so amazing. That is so amazing. I do a 6-week tweak.
Okay.
And I do a weekly reference with it called a reflection. The question is, what did I learn?
Yeah. So
we're doing the same. So we're doing the same thing with different words, but I'll tell you something, champions do this.
Oh yeah. The thing though, consider this, John. So I personally believe, and I've seen a lot of different data sets for ranges of establishing learning or a routine or a habit. Some say it takes 21 days. Some say it takes 30 days, right? But I will tell you what I have found for myself outside of all the data sets out there, right? In the frame, of reference of being an athlete and don't do tomorrow what you can do today conceptually, right? I have found that 2-week sprints prevent me from tolerating a problem because it breaks my pattern of saying, well, I have 6 weeks within the 3 months, and then I start negotiating with myself.
Right.
I honed into the 2 weeks because it prevents the habit that I know I will attain because of the speed I go.
Yeah. You find a way that's so good. You actually box yourself in and paint yourself into a corner and box yourself in so that you are accountable. Oh, yeah. And you're accountable probably to others, but certainly to yourself. I do the same thing. I put myself in relationship with at least one other person and the grand idea. And we have a weekly conversation on, what did I do and what am I going to do? Like that, because I need to be accountable. Otherwise, I will do what humans do, leave it to the last minute and then make up an excuse for why I didn't do it.
So this is fascinating. I'll leave us with this kind of concept. Maybe we spend 5 minutes on it. Pretty much the Spartan mindset. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, but I don't know much about it, except I think I probably live it.
You do, and so do I. And
I have such an admiration for the Spartans. When you look at the Spartans and the Athenians, I studied the Athenians for philosophy. I studied the Spartans for effect.
Yeah, and this is pretty cool. And I'm gonna send you some stuff that I've read on the Spartan mentality and mindset. Okay.
Very cool.
And the company of Spartan Races, right, that established their brand on like really fun activities that get people outside.
Oh, how cool.
It's super
How
intense,
cool.
but I want to send you that because I want to spend a day talking about the Spartan mindset and mentality. And
Let's talk about that next week. Let's have
yeah,
that be
I think
the
it
theme
warrants.
of what it is. Because, oh man, I will be so happy because I'll be in learning mode.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, but the biggest takeaway is this, right? If I had to say, what do I take away as the Spartan mentality and mindset? Human beings sometimes, and more often than not, do tomorrow because I have another day. I have another day.
Ah, that's so good.
So
That is so good.
the Spartan mentality is hold on a minute. I am going to hold myself accountable. I'm going to put a date. I'm going to write a date in the calendar, and I am going to work meticulously every day to get to race day or to get to D-Day. And what it does is human beings, when you write it down and you have it on your calendar, there is nothing more painful that if you sign up for a half marathon and you have not run one day except for a week before, that you are going to be humbled. And human beings don't like to be embarrassed.
Don't like that. Do not like, you know what? Baboons don't like that.
Yeah. So it's crazy, but that's like very surface level of the Spartan mentality, but it's feverishly working at your craft or what you're aspiring to do, right? What goal you're trying to accomplish, right? Mixed with the power of one more. And
Look at the
having
champions. Look at the champions when they get to the Super Bowl. They always say the same thing the day before. There is no tomorrow.
yeah, there is no tomorrow. And that's definitely a Spartan mentality. But
Spartan mentality.
what's really cool about it, okay, is by the time you get to race day, D-Day, whatever that day is that you are training yourself to do, right?
Right.
It has nothing to do about that day itself. To be honest with you, the Super Bowl game itself isn't that appetizing to the elite players that are actually in the game. Yeah, for a moment, they'll absorb it, right? But it's the process, the adversity, the setbacks for the comebacks, and training their mind, not having their mind train them. That
yeah,
journey,
brilliant.
That is the Spartan mindset.
Training the mind to the state of unconscious competency.
There you go. So we next week we're gonna drill into this, and I want to send
that rocks. That really rocks. I love that.
It's exciting. It's exciting, and you know what? I may just sign up for a Spartan race now because now we're talking about it.
You know, well, I'm actually going to go and Google it and get myself at least to the point of conscious incompetency in the area so that I can begin to take it on.
Yeah. Well, no, as ever, John, next week we will talk about the Spartan mindset and mentality, as well as intentionality and what that really
intention. That's the deal. It's
I know.
all in the service of intention, every bit of it.
Well, you'll love it, right? Because that's what I had written for today that I really wanted to hit on, and it weaves into it. But the concept of the 4 levels of learning, huge, because so many people don't understand that they're in flow in between some of these. And guess what? You can rinse and repeat it. It's not static. Your life evolves, and you may be at different stages. And if you parallel path things, you may be a field general in sport. But in business, you may be consciously incompetent, but you're starting to figure out how to build a team around you. And you
That's
bring
right.
like me, you bring someone like you who's done the business thing and learned from a lot of great fail and fast, right? So
Yeah. And again, you do what you did in sports that you didn't know that you do because you had a coach that wasn't, you didn't like or whatever, but you have a sponsor. You
yep.
have somebody who provides an umbrella and allows you to make your mistakes and learn so that you can get to conscious competency
Okay. So
and actually be somebody who's constructively contributing.
yeah. And so that's cool. So next week we'll talk about the Spartan mindset, mentality, and overall
Nice.
intentionality. Okay.
Nice.
And then from there, I think there'll be a lot of things that'll come from that. And I'll circle back with others that are watching this and get some feedback
Well,
from
you know, it's also perfect, Sammy, because this really has to do with setting up your new year.
yeah.
And I really love your idea of, you know, you do, what did you say, your 2-week sprints and your
Oh,
90-day
Mhm.
your 90-day check-ins and some combination of that in my Y strategy where I actually have report card day and,
Yeah.
you know, midterm tweaks and stuff like that. Getting ourselves on that line and all of that inside of intention.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, John, New Year's Day,
Mm.
it's not a reset or restart for me because every 2 weeks is a day one for me. That is
It's just another day. It's exactly right. It's just another day.
yeah. So I don't
And
believe
oh, by the way, it's a day when I'm actually moving forward because other people are hungover. So thank you very much.
well, that's just, the competitive advantage. Don't put the sauce out too much now. But no, thank you as ever. I'm excited. Recap the
Mhm.
4 levels of learning: unconsciously incompetent, moving to consciously competent, and then becoming a field general where you're unconsciously competent. So there's a lot that we all can reflect on this, and we will weave these concepts in because it's every day. It's an everyday thing, and
Yeah, this
I
is
look
your life.
forward to it.
This is your life. Yeah, a life of
Yeah.
virtuous practices and insights.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, as
Awesome
ever.
conversation.
No, you
Awesome
amazing.
conversation, Sammy.
All righty. Have a good one.
I
Bye.
promise. You too.